Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel, and welcome to the round 13 of the World Rapid Chess Championship in 2019 in Moscow. So, after many rounds, Magnus Carlsen is in the lead. He has 9.5 points. Four other players have 8.5 points. So, with this 3 rounds to play, I think Magnus Carlsen can win this tournament by gaining 2 points out of this possible three. So, Magnus played in the round 13 against top grandmaster Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. He's one of these players with 8.5 points. So it was really a dynamic game between the two of them. Here, Magnus played with the white pieces. Mamedyarov, with the win, with the black pieces, could have maybe even catch up with Magnus or even take the lead in the tournament. So let's see what happened. So here, Magnus played knight to f3. We have knight to f6 by Mamedyarov. Here c4 and now e6. Now after knight to c3 we have d5, and here d4 we have the queen's gambit declined with a little bit different move order, but we have now the most common position I think that's played in top grandmaster level. Most of the times I think we have seen now the queen's gambit decline in this particular setup. Here in the game, a knight from b to d7 played by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. There is one line after this move, after potential bishop to g5. You can take c4, here d takes c4, and after e4 I think bishop to e7 is perfectly fine. But if you don't take, if you play maybe some passive moves, there is always the possibility to play maybe something like knight to b6. So that's why this e4 move, I think it's the most aggressive way in the game. After knight from b to d7, Magnus Carlsen simply is not allowing this dynamics in the center, and he plays the move c takes d5. And if you're familiar more with my YouTube chess channel, in my series playing d4, I've always recommended you to undermine the pressure here, like Magnus did in the game, to play the move c takes d5, because it leaves really not such a good opportunities here for black. The game is equalized. I'm not saying that white has a huge advantage here, but the more important thing is after e takes d5, here bishop to g5, we're playing simply the most aggressive moves here. Bishop to e7 played, and now e3 by Carlsen. You see this c5 move now by black is not such a good move, because if you play that, then you always have troubles, because in the continuation after something like d takes c5, you would have sort of an isolated pawn, and it could be weakness in long terms. So that's why c6 is the most common way. And you see now the pawn structure in the center is a little bit too static for both sides, but still you're playing with white, you don't have any threats I think. And here Magnus simply played the most natural way, queen to c2, and this is really a line that I play many times, so I'm really familiar with these ideas. Now the ideas after castling bishop to d3, there is a serious threat. Of course, if you try something like bishop to d6, then we have bishop to h7. You cannot recapture with the knight because the queen is hanging. And here rook to e8 was played. The main idea behind this move is a simplification line, because here after, I don't know, something like castling, knight to e4 could be a possibility. But it has to be more prepared. There is one problem. First, you should have played maybe something like h6 after bishop to h4, maybe now knight to e4, because if you take out this bishop, then after queen to e7, we have now a very powerful outposted knight on e4. You cannot compete with this knight. If you give up your light square bishop immediately, it's not such a good position. You have to play something like knight to d2, and then f5 is possible for black. So that's why you see you cannot recapture with the knight here, because then d takes e4 leads into losing game for white, because we have a powerful fork on the bishop and the knight. So see, this is really a tricky preparation here by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. Here after rook to e8, Magnus Carlsen plays a very cool move, I think, bishop to f4. Pardon me. Here he didn't castle, he played bishop to f4, not allowing this idea to jump with the knight and force the trades of bishops. And now Mamedyarov played knight to f8, which is perfectly fine. The main idea behind this move is to play knight to g6, and if the bishop comes on g3, then we have knight to h5. We can really chase this dark square bishop. The dark square bishop is very active here. And here h3 played by Carlsen. That's why you see we're not allowing after knight to g6. We can hide with our bishop to h2. The bishop is not vulnerable anymore anymore to any attacks of blacks anymore. So that's why here after the move h3, Mamedyarov played the move bishop to d6, and forcing now basically Magnus to trade off the bishops, and Magnus did that with bishop to d6, queen to d6. And if we evaluate the position, as I always like to evaluate positions by the relation of the bishops and pawns, the light square bishop of Magnus Carlsen is slightly better because it has a good diagonal, and basically our pawns are on dark squares in the center. On the other hand, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov's bishop is on light squares, of course, and now there are several pawns here on light squares. So in order to, in a potential endgame, you have to somehow maybe improve the pawn structure on the queen side. And one of the main ideas of white here is to create a minority attack with the move b4, a4, b5, just in order to create some weaknesses on the queen side. The weaknesses can be a weak pawn or a weak square. There is one weak square which white is always trying to attack, and it's the square c5. So if we manage to play something like knight to f4, then knight to c5 is very powerful. A potential b6 move, in order to prevent this knight to c5 idea, weakens further the c6 move. So you have troubles here. Sometimes as black, you see the troubles of Shakhriyar Mamedyarov in the game. Castling played by Magnus now finally, and now knight to g6. Maybe a better idea is to play knight to e6, because the knight on e6 at least controls the c5 square. Maybe we have some possibilities to play something like h6, knight to g5, and similar ideas. But in the game, knight to g6 was played. The idea behind this move is simply to close the light square diagonal, because Magnus Carlsen has played on a very powerful battery here on the light squares, and here Magnus played this idea, this minority attack. The minority attack is very important in these types of setups. Basically, the game transposed into a Slav formation of pawn structures here in the center. Now, as I said, b4, b5 is the main idea to crack the position on the queen side. So bishop to d7, Shakhriyar Mamedyarov defends, and now b4. We have rook to c8, discoverably attacking the queen, because there are some tactical possibility. If the position clears, of course, on the c file, then something could happen with the dangerous rook. Rook to c1 played by Carlsen, and now queen to e7. Now again, our idea is to play knight to e4, creating a very powerful outpost, because white would love also to play on our outpost here, knight to e5, and then maybe even support further this knight with the move f4, but it's not possible. That's why also this knight to g6 idea is a very, very important move by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. Here b5, played by Magnus Carlsen, simply going straight forward, because as I said, the positional threat is here to play knight to e4. We have c takes b5, bishop b5, bishop takes b5, and now rook to b5. And now knight to e4 played by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. This was a mistake. He shouldn't have played now this outpost. Maybe a better way simply to create here a defensive setup with the move b6, or even try maybe something like rook to c7 after rook to b1, maybe simply creating a battery on the c file. I think this is much better. This knight to e4 move by Mamedyarov is okay. You have created the pin, but the more important thing is you have left the defense of the d5 pawn, and this was now the main mistake, I think, in the game. Mamedyarov has defended very good here, and Magnus simply gets out of the pin. Here knight to d6 was played, and still maybe even knight to c3 is better. Because after rook takes c3, okay, we can try rook takes c3, queen takes c3, maybe even something like b6, again simply defending our pawn. This is maybe playable for black. Still, I like more white's position, because we have a better knight. This knight is basically on the edge of the board. It's a little bit stuck to the defense of this very important square e5. But you see, there is always the weakness on d5. You have several weaknesses. You have two weak pawns, so you would be a little bit stretched on both sides simply by defending this pawn. So that's why still there are many better lines, as I said, maybe here rook to c7, but in the continuation Mamedyarov played knight to e4, and Magnus uses this moment immediately. He plays simply this move queen to b2, nothing special, nothing fancy, I think, but here after knight to d6, this was again another mistake by Shakhriyar Mamedyarov. I don't know what happened, but here Magnus smelled the blood, I think, a little bit, and here that's why knight to d5, simply taking the pawn after rook takes c8, queen takes c8, and now queen to e6. Here Magnus simply played rook to c5, very important move. b6 seems like a dangerous move, but it's not a problem because first we have the move knight to c7, creating the fork on the rook and the queen. Queen to d7 would be the continuation, but now we can simply take b takes c5, but now we can simply take the knight. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, and now even queen takes c5 or d takes c5 is a possibility. If we evaluate this endgame, white is simply better. White is 2 pawns up, and this is, I think, simply losing for black. So that's why after rook to c5, Mamedyarov played rook to d8, but now Magnus gets out of this mess here, because now we have gained 2 pawns here in the center. The pawn structure is very healthy in the center, so now we get out of this potential b6 mess. Now what we want to do is simplify the position and go into a favorable endgame. h6 played by Mamedyarov, queen to a3, attacking this pawn on a7. a6 we have queen to a5, simply attacking the rook. Queen to e8 we have queen to b6. Magnus sneaks in a little bit in black's camp here, but it is a really natural move, so it's really easy now for white to find the best next move. In the next move we could also try knight to e5 outpost, then recapturing with the rook, maybe find another good square again for a knight. There are several weaknesses. Again, here this b7 pawn is also weak, so here king to h7 played by Mamedyarov, rook to d5, we have rook to c8, but now Magnus simply took the knight on d6, rook takes c3 was played, queen to b7, rook to c1, not a problem, we can always hide, king to h2, rook to c2, and now a very important move, rook to d7. Now we have created a very powerful battery. On the 7th rank we have really a nice attacking formation here with the white pieces. King to g8 was played, and now rook to c7. In this position Shakhriyar Mamedyarov resigned, because you have to trade off the rooks now. If you don't do that, if you trade maybe take here the pawn on f2, then we have rook to c8 and it would be game over. If you trade off rooks, then again we have a simplified endgame, and again with this 2 centralized pawns, I don't think that Mamedyarov can play for a draw here. This is simply a better position for white. Okay, you see how Magnus plays. I think it's nothing special, but it's his attacks are really so simple, but monstrous. They are really I think understandable for everyone, but Magnus plays really nice pragmatic chess. I think he's the best chess player in history in this pragmatic style of chess. He doesn't search for simplifications. He simply relies on this weak squares, weak pawns, and I think these games that he's playing in this rapid tournament are really instructive, and this is one of the best tournaments that Magnus has played in 2019. The year 2019 has been really successful for Magnus. He won many tournaments, and he's simply the best now in the world. And I don't know what to say about Magnus' career anymore. Basically, he can harm himself only. You see how this top grandmasters blunder, like Levon Aronian in my previous analyzed game. Mamedyarov also blundered here. So these things don't happen to Magnus. That's why he's the world champion, and Mamedyarov and Aronian are not. So this is simple as that. So okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. We'll follow the last rounds of this tournament in the continuation of my YouTube chess channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.